Hello? Hello? Hello, sir? No? Hello?
Okay.
Steph?
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Trying to
Let me adjust
make
my.
sure I don't have any wardrobe malfunctions.
I understand. I'm like adjusting to this new normal. Let me find a better spot that's not. See if the light is better this way. Yeah, that's better. A little better. Still a little dark, but
Yeah, that's one of the challenges with doing the videos unless you're have a bunch of light around you or whatever.
yeah, I'm thinking about investing in a light kit.
Yeah, that's actually what my wife got me. She just got it for me too. Like last year before we got married, I had kind of the big lights look like they have umbrellas around them, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had that set. It was less than $100 for that as well as the background.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess I didn't move my stuff fast enough um, from the apartment, and so I put some of it in. One of the other tenants knew I was leaving, so she said you could use my storage because we had storage facility. So I put it down there. Well, she wound up leaving. So before I was able to get to the guy to, he was like, oh yeah, I put all this stuff in the trash. Like he was almost like he was proud of it or something. Like, yeah, okay, thank you. And so my wife got me these LEDs. I'm trying not to blind you with it, but
Yeah, I see.
yeah. So, but they work pretty well. It's just two of them, and sometimes you got to find the right place between them so you don't get that's my phone's alarm. So you don't get shadowing when you're fading.
Mm-hmm.
1 second, I just want to turn that off.
All right. Um,
That's a little better. You're getting a little bit of light.
Yeah, I just kind of put my camera phone light. That's
Yeah.
better, but
If you were dark skinned, we'd be in trouble. He's
it's a little
talking to
better.
teeth.
Just trying to find the right spot so I can try to prop it up because I actually have I have a stand for it. So oops, put it on the stand. It's a shadow there.
My wife would be horrified by that, being able to see the window.
I totally understand. Let me get something to set this on. 1 second. Actually, I'm going to try a different spot.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get some natural light. That'll be better. That's a little better.
Yeah.
And then we won't have the air conditioner noise.
Yeah, what? That's funny. Yeah, I couldn't hear that, but I turned mine off whether a person can hear it or not because I was like, I don't know. I don't want to find out later. All I can hear is in the back is whatever.
Right. Yeah, well, I was sitting right next to it,
Uh-huh.
and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't too loud, but I didn't want to turn it off either.
So, how's your dad doing?
He's okay. I mean, we're not really expecting him to get much better,
Yeah.
but we realize in this time frame that if we send him to the hospital or to a facility, it could be the last time we see him. So we're opting to do as much at home that we can. Plus, he doesn't want to go. Like if we send him, he's just going to give up. So
Yeah, that was a bit of a thing too, because we know my mom wasn't feeling the idea, but the reality is she started wandering. So if you walk in out the house and you can't get back home, that's a problem. I mean, it's really,
right.
I mean, it's very dangerous on a lot of levels, but just the idea that the police have to bring you home every time. And the interesting thing is when this happened before, we called the police, they went out, found her, whatever. It's like it was no big deal. Well, the cops didn't think it was any big deal. But I think they don't get it when I show up. I think they just assume that she lives with me, or I live with her. Often they're surprised when I say, no, she lives alone. And they're like, really? You know, I get these
Right.
eyes. I'm like, yeah, I'm not in the driver's seat, bro. Like this is not how that she chose for this to go down. Now, obviously she didn't choose the illness, but as they told her it was coming, you know, there were some things that she refused to do to put in place. Ironically, though, this is crazy. I guess this is just a God moment. It turns out when my brother came, I don't think you would know Eddie, but
No,
anyway,
not sure.
yeah, like he and Ray used to be friends long, like before. What did he call it? High impact before, before the, way back. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to say about that.
We said before your brother came.
Yeah, I can't remember where I was headed with that. Anyway, but the point is, you know, when she got lost before, they just found her, whatever. But this time, like, oh, that's right, we found the documents that she had signed 12 years ago for power of attorney. Now, we had already talked to an attorney and all that kind of stuff. If you don't have power of attorney, you have to get guardianship.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, it's about $8,500, and then another $5,000 or $6,000 to start the Medicaid process. Yeah, about that, you know.
Right.
So just before we robbed the Brinks, we, you know, we were trying to figure out what was going on. And then when Eddie came, he was doing some cleanup in her house because we knew ultimately that's where we were headed.
Mm-hmm.
And he, no, one of the days, I'm sorry, I was over there before he came. I found the paperwork, and then I told him, I was like, you know what? I'm reading through Mom's papers. I thought it was just her will and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Power of attorney was in there. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, I think I just found something. I started reading through. I was like, there's a power of attorney. I was like, oh my God, all this time we had one, but it had to be activated by a doctor giving a letter saying that she should not be.
Right. Yeah, we did that. We did that about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When he was able to actually go with us and sign it and everything and get it notarized.
Yeah.
So my brother and sister and I all have equal say and control. So that's mostly because my brother lives in Maryland, my sister lives in New Jersey. I'm the one that's here. So whoever is available is the one who's going to have to make the decision. So,
yeah, that's kind of good that all of you guys can do it as opposed to being compartmentalized.
Yeah.
We have. Although what's good is that Eddie and I can roll through that together anyway. I mean,
Right.
it's not like because I can, I'm just going to be like, oh, I'm going to just do this and I'm going to go do that.
Right. Right.
So anyway, it is, unfortunately, it is what it is. The
Yeah.
challenge, I think, as a believer is understanding where that line is. You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
yeah, your faith in God, and then you're like, how do I reconcile that in words to say, like, we can make this a completely different interview, but now, but you know what I'm saying? It was like, how do I, you know, like even saying it to my brother when I was like, well, you know, don't really expect her. And I was like, is that the right words? Is that okay to say that we don't expect her to get better? I know that's what they say, but are we supposed to say the same thing? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it was like that whole battle back and forth, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's rough. I was like, I don't know the words, Lord, so I'm just say what I know from a somewhat humanistic. I was like, yeah, you get the final vote in all this, but the progression, the way that we're walking now, we have to deal with what's in our hands right now. You know what I mean? Like I can't just let mom stay in the house and just don't believe in God, and then you know
Right.
something
Right.
in there, or even worse, she could do some harm to someone else. And my mom lived in a townhouse. Right?
Oh. Yeah.
House on
Yeah.
both sides of her. She could take people out all. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so, and they won't know. You know, and it's funny because people are like, oh, you should go live there. This is before I got married last year, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, is that so I burn up in the house too? Like because if she's cooking and forgets and sets the house on fire, though I said the only difference is I would be in the house with her.
Right.
It's not like that stops that from happening. Like she's not gonna touch the stove because Kelly's in the house. It's her stove.
Right. Right. Right.
So, you know, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just it's been interesting. But what's
Yeah.
been cool though is since she's been in there, she doesn't ask about her house. She doesn't talk about going home. She doesn't say anything like that as if she misses anything, like the part of her life has just disappeared on her.
Right.
So that part is a blessing. We're not really understanding it, but I'll take it as long as it's there. You know what I mean?
I understand. I understand. I mean, my dad is at the point where, I mean, if we moved him, he probably wouldn't really realize too much that he was moved.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, he knows that he's home.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he needs to do to get the stuff that he wants in his space, but he's really at the point where he's bedridden for the most part. So he's not really, like when I got here today, he had taken all the sheets off the bed somehow because he soiled himself. And I don't know how he got the sheets off, but they were on the floor and he was just laying on the bed. So I was thankful that he was still on the bed and not on the floor too. And I was going to go ahead and do our interview and then deal with all that afterwards. Like he was fine. He was safe. He had already put on like new Depends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Get in the shower. So I was like, well, I'll just call the aide and then have them come afterwards and I can focus. But she showed up. Like, but that was God, because I was like, you know what? He needs to get cleaned up. So I was fine with her just showing up because she had called earlier, but I wasn't available. And thankfully I was here when she got here, and then we got to the shower. She washed him up and we got the bed cleaned, and he's back in bed. I mean, he's fine. He's tired because he did all that work getting up, you know, moving around when he doesn't normally move around.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is at this point, and I've kind of accepted this is where we are. I mean, he'll be 90 next week.
Wow.
So I feel blessed and fortunate, and none of us get out of this life alive. So
Yes, that's a good point. How old are you?
How old am I? I just turned 50.
Oh, okay. I knew you were younger, but I couldn't recall just how much younger you were. But okay, cool.
Yep.
So your dad was.
He was 40 when 39
yeah.
when I was born.
Were you the? Are you the last?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think about that now differently since my son. I have a newborn.
Right.
You know, 51 years old.
Yeah. Well, I had my first at 40 and my second at 41,
Okay.
almost 42. So
So you definitely were, they were like had you in the high risk.
yeah, they say that, but I was fine.
Yeah. Well, again, the reality is people were having babies in their 40s a long time ago before they even had the term high risk,
Exactly.
or to tell us to be scared. And, there were different tests they wanted us to do. And one of them, I said, well, first of all, it was interesting. The insurance company wouldn't pay for it. It was like $1,500 or something. And I was like, what are we testing for exactly? And they were talking about some kind of possible childhood illness. And I said, and if she's positive, then what? Well, then we would talk to you about, no, we're not doing that. We're not acting like there's a decision to be made about this child coming here. That's not part of this conversation. So why are we're not testing just so you guys have some information. Right. We're not going to do, you can't do anything about it anyway. You can't fix it. If you can't fix it in the womb, then we got to deal with it when he gets here anyway. So
that's true.
Fall back.
Yeah, I did, the basic tests. I did, but I didn't go overboard with the testing. And
yeah, I think because, well, again, they referred her directly to, high risk, even though she's 30. I'm always moving her up a year, 38, or will be 38. Oh, no, she'll be 39, 38. So anyway, I keep calling her 39 because I keep telling her, oh, you're getting close to 40. Now, sometimes you be joking so much. I was like, is it actually 39 or 40? But anyway, so she wasn't, in some ways, not that old. Right. And then it's like, but they're like running around. I'm like, come on, y'all need to just relax. Yeah, I need everybody to relax because, people, again, they were delivering babies long before y'all came along. So
that's true.
I'm not going to sit here and be worried about, he gets here how he gets here.
That's true.
Thankfully, he was healthy, but, the reality is, there's people that can't have kids. They would definitely take a child that has some special needs over not being able to have kids at all.
That is true.
So.
That is true.
All right, so let's get us underway.
Okay.
Let's see if we can yak. Hello, everyone. Oh, give me a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. And today we have with us Stephanie Felder. We're going to talk to her about her coaching and her coaching practice and how the coaching practice may be able to benefit you. So we're going to just start with some light conversation, if that's okay, Stephanie. So just tell them, we just said your name, but tell us who you are and where you're from. Give us some ideas.
Okay. Hi, I'm Stephanie Felder, and I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And my coaching business is really a wellness business, and it's called Fit Faith Life.
Okay. And how did it, share with us the name, what the name means to you or how you came to that name?
Okay. So when I had my children, and I had my children when I was 40 and 41, and I gained a lot of weight, I decided I needed to, one, be healthy for them because I wanted to live a long life beyond, anything that expectations might think. But I also wanted to be healthy for myself and to lose the baby weight. So originally I started off with the idea that I would be more of a mommy-centered type fitness blog.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I developed that into more of a fitness business. I eventually got my personal trainer certificate, and I got my group fitness certificate, and I just recently graduated from American University with a master's in nutrition education. So,
congratulations.
So I did all that so that I could be able to really help people to focus on their wellness, their general wellness. But what I found in the process of me trying to make sure I was healthy was that I really relied on my faith in doing so. So when I started the blog, it was called Team Fit Mommy because it was going to be all about my life as a mom and losing weight. But then getting into it, I realized, this is really about how God is really pushing me to be a better person. And
Mm-hmm.
really, I had to develop, some character traits to stick to an eating plan, stick to working out. And all of those things were things that I was recognizing as character traits that I had learned in my walk as a Christian.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. I think it's interesting. I was talking to someone recently. She's starting probably more of a life coaching program. And but we were talking about names because she's going to be speaking for an event, like probably a virtual event. And she was saying that, they asked her for a ministry name, and she was saying she didn't really have a ministry name per se, and she's playing around with that. And then she's like, well, it's part of the conversation came out, well, it can always change, right? Like, because, and I said to her, yeah, to find out what lane you're in, you have to start driving. You have to
That's
drive
true.
before you can figure that out. And she was like, yeah, that's good. She said, you should do a video on it. But that's the reality of it, is that things will change. And, I was telling her before, and I've told others, that I started with the coaching program was called Impact, IMPAKT, phonetically spelled. Aren't you a teacher also?
I am.
Yes. So I want to make sure, I'm spelling it phonetically, not incorrectly. But we spelled it that way. Stands for Innovative, Motivated People Applying Knowledge Today, right? So the idea was that we create folks that were creating generational impact. Interestingly enough, in talking to you now, it also reminds me that that kind of side needs to be a part of the equation, because you got to be here. I mean, there's no point in creating financial and other types of success if you're going to be laid up in the hospital, like, oh, I have a nice Mercedes sitting over there in the hospital parking lot somewhere.
Right.
But the reality is we don't always take a look at our whole lives and figure out how, we need to bring those things to bear in that. So share with me, so you said you wanted to go on this journey. I got to ask this question, and this is one of those questions that you're not supposed to ask a woman, but how much weight were you trying to lose initially?
Oh, that's all a part of my story, so I don't mind sharing.
Okay.
Right when I had my second child, I weighed about 200 pounds. I had never weighed that much in my life. And I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel healthy. I didn't feel like, I just didn't feel anything about myself at that point. So I lost about 50 pounds.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, I remember you being kind of tall, kind of tall for a woman, whatever that means. How tall are you?
5'7".
7, okay, all right. I'm shorter. I'm short, so it's like sometimes people go, everybody taller. No, they're not all taller than me. But I just remembered that when I saw you at High Impact.
Right. So I mean, really, people always say, "But you look great," and I'm like, and then they'll say, "But you're tall," and I'm like, I'm not really that tall. And whether I look great, I don't feel great. And
exactly.
I feel great. I don't want to, it's not all about a look, really. It's about your health, because there are a lot of people that you would consider overweight that are really much more healthy than some people who are not. So,
yeah, I think that's the confusion in our society at large, is that you can just simply look at the number, and the numbers tell the story. In your case, because you mentioned, because I asked you about the weight, like where you were, I thought it would be good for people to have a comparative, like a perspective on it. Because if you were 205.4, you're dealing with a slightly, you still need to lose them. The challenge is still similar,
yes,
but it gives a different perspective on what you were dealing with.
It does.
Yeah, I was working with another fitness coach, but I was not formally her coach, but I was kind of helping her out.
Mhm.
And she was talking about, her weight, and she was like, "Oh my God, I had gotten up to 143," and I'm like, like my initial reaction was like, "Okay, that's sister girl range." You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's not a thing. Like that's not even a thing yet. And she was talking about this, and I was like, I didn't say it to her, but I was thinking, don't say the number. Just say, "Hey, I wanted to lose a lot of weight," because a lot of people hear the number, like even well, I'm talking to a fitness person, but I mean, I'm heavier than I'm supposed to be. But even when I was like 150 or so, guys would make fun of that. Like they think it's funny because I'm a smaller dude. So
Right.
150 to them is light. As a matter of fact, when I remember I had a friend of mine I used to work with, his name's Loyal, Loyal. And Loyal's a big guy, 6'3". He was like 340 pounds when I met him. And one time we were joking, he was like, "How much you weigh, Kelly?" And I was, at the time, I was like 140. He was like, "Man, that's like my right thigh." And he's like, "I haven't been 140 since I was in 6th grade." And I was like, God, I was like, when I got out of high school, I wasn't 140. I wasn't even 120 yet. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It was a lot smaller. And I didn't even, the funny thing is, I never thought of myself as, I know I was short, but never thought of myself as that small until I would look back or think back when I was like, I was 115 when I walked out of high school. I was like, I was tiny. Just never thought of it from that perspective. And no one ever, and I don't know, sometimes you get perspective how people interact with you. No one ever said anything about me being thin or
Right.
small framed. Just they were caught up on the height thing, so it never really became a big thing for me. So anyway, it's just interesting. But I wanted people to have a perspective on what it is you were kind of dealing with or what the challenges
Right.
were. So now I know you're married. So what was your husband's kind of take on your journey? Whether the journey was just yours, the personal part, but then the part where like you were turning it into a work that you were going to do.
Well, he's been very, very supportive of everything that I decide to do.
That's great.
And really blessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
That when I say, "Hey, I want to do such and such," he just kind of looks at me and says, "Okay," and he just lets me go at it. So when I decided that I wanted to lose weight, he said, "Okay, what's your plan?" And he would just kind of challenge me to stick to my plan, whatever I chose.
Oh, that's good.
The plan, he'd be like, "Okay, well, let's do it." And so he even worked out with me for a while, and because he's been pretty active anyway. He's a pretty fit person. So
Okay.
when I would want to go walking, but I kind of worked out a little bit when I was pregnant. I mean, we would go walking a lot. Go to the track, walk a couple miles,
Mm-hmm.
those type of things. And then, but when I really got serious about it and decided, okay, I'm going to just change our diet, and because it was our diet, it wasn't my diet.
Yeah.
Fix 2 different meals. So, generally speaking, he ate what I ate, and so did the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why my kids love vegetables today, because I don't make different meals for the family. If I'm cooking, something that has brown rice and vegetables, they get brown rice and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
My kids,
That's good.
they
What's
eat
good is they
salmon.
were young, so they kind of like they were just early adopters. It's like this is what we eat. They didn't have a whole lot of like, oh, we're used to this, all this junk food, and then all of a sudden, mommy switched it up on us. It was like
Right.
they kind of grew right into it. So that part was really, really worked out. So at what point did you decide to convert it, or not to convert it, that it was going to be a business and that you were going to help others? Was that like a download, as sometimes Christians call it, or is it just an inspiration you had? Like, wow, I think other people need this too. How did that come about?
Well, what actually happened was when I started my website, it was more. I kind of had selfish motives, thinking I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. I had stayed home from my job as a teacher. I stayed home for 4.5 years to begin my family. And what I thought was going to happen was I saw all these people with websites and they had ads and they were making money and they were doing it from home and they were like, you can do it too. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So that's when I started my website. But then I realized you don't make money unless you have followers, and you don't have followers unless you're on social media. And it just became a big grind and it just wasn't fun for me. So I had to stop. I was like, okay, either I'm going to blog for fun or I'm going to blog for money and really like put myself out there. And then I'm always comfortable with like, as a mommy blogger, you have to put your kids out there too. And I wasn't comfortable with that.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's another reason I kind of switched over to the Fit Faith Life, because now it's a lifestyle blog. It's about my fitness. It's about faith. And if I want to put my kids out there, I can, but I don't have to put my kids out there. So switching over to that, it made me also losing 50 pounds and documenting it on social media. Lots of people were always asking me, well, what are you doing? How are you doing that? So it almost kind of was organic, the helping people. But what I realized was, as a teacher, I could not allow myself to not be certified as a personal trainer and give people advice. I could tell people what I did, but I wanted to be able to speak from a place of knowledge and not speak from just my own personal journey, because what I do may not help you really, because you're a different person. But if I have more knowledge, then I can at least share what I know from a professional standpoint, which is why I also got the degree in nutrition, because I didn't want to give people advice about eating food and I don't have no idea what I'm really talking about. I'm just Googling it like you could. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, what's interesting is, well, a lot of times coaches are, when I interact with a coach, you know, especially if they're just starting their business, they're concerned about the credentialing for different reasons. It's usually to kind of validate, not like an inner validation, but just because they feel like they're going to have to validate kind of what they know, or that they know something. The reality is that for some folks, when they're coaching, they are coming from their, you know, they are shooting from the gut, good, bad, or indifferent. That's, you know, essentially what's happening. And in some cases, they are just sharing their experiences. And I've heard, you probably know her. Well, I probably shouldn't say her name, but her first letter is T. She's from one of the IYWCCs, but down in Delaware. You know what I'm talking about? But I remember in one of hers, I think she said something to the effect that she's giving you what she has experienced. This is what I've experienced. So I'm not, you know, I'm not a nutritionist, whatever. She explained that,
right,
and said, but this is what worked for me, which is cool. Like I can respect whichever way, you know, a person, you know, goes.
Right.
When they do like life coaching and stuff like that, I'm not 100% convinced that the credentials are really going to be the key, although that may be give the person the structure. I think what you're doing is a different thing, because, you know, they're following your goals, not just for how many push-ups to do or whatever, right? Like, it's like, what am I putting in my body? You know
right.
Like, oh, now try this supplement that I just, you know.
Right.
You just pay me $20 just to promote or whatever. You know, people are promoting stuff and may or may not be using the stuff in the first place. So to me, that's disingenuous, right? Because that's not the purpose. If I'm watching you and I'm following you on that level, I want you to be as authentic as you can be. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's what you want from people. But it's really interesting when you get inside of coaching and you talk to people. You never really know where someone is unless you know where they are. You know what I mean? Like where they are for real. So it's like, you know. See, with fitness, though, what's interesting is you guys show yourself. So physically, we can see, you know, if you were 300 pounds, you would not be able to pull this off, because like all the shots would be really close on your face and stuff.
Right.
Whereas like on the other side, business coach, life coaches or whatever, the life coach, their life could be a hot mess. Oh, I'm on my 4th divorce, you know, I'm beat my wife and my kids on the way out of the house. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
not to belittle, you know, I'm not really, might have been sounding funny, but it wasn't to be comical. But it's like the reality is it could be that bad and you would never know. As long as they present well. And the interesting thing is you can present quality information even if you're not using it. Like, you know, I know some stuff I should be doing better that I'm not, you know, necessarily doing. I know this glass of Coca-Cola over here on my desk is not a good idea for me. I'm well aware of that. But the reality is we don't always do what's best for us, even though we should.
Oh, that's so true.
We don't always do it.
That's true. I mean, I can be transparent and just say, like, so I lost that 50 pounds. I gained that 50 pounds back. And
wow, did you? Okay.
I did. When I went back to work, you know, it's a different reality being at home and being, you know, able to work out when you want to, like the kids sleep and your kids are little, and then you go back to work and your life hits a different rhythm. It hits a different, you know, so yeah, I did gain it back. I'm happy to say I'm losing it all again. I mean, since we've been on quarantine, I've lost about 15 pounds. So, you know, that it's a good thing. Like me being at home is an easier lifestyle for me.
That's funny because they talk about people gaining weight.
Yeah, no, I lost it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that definitely messed up. Like,
so
Stephanie, and you know, have gained it back. But yeah, thanks for that transparency because you know we would obviously not be able to necessarily know that you know. But the thing is, like we talked about before we started recording, life is continuing to happen around us too. And I tell people, while it's not a quote unquote an excuse, but it's a reality, and there are things that impact what we do and what we don't do that are outside of our immediate, like, you know, and dealing with stuff told you before, like with my mom, I'm one of those people that usually people go, like, I'm just flat, like, you know. And even my mom said when I was a kid, she said, I didn't get excited where, like, other kids like, oh, we're going to the museum, we're going to the zoo. She's like, not Kelly. Kelly like, like, it was like, why y'all bringing me here? Like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, it's animals, big deal. She said that was always how, you know, I was. So, you know, it's just interesting in this, you know, as a coach to watch how other people operate, watch yourself and see how, like, as I went through that situation, you know, the different situations with mom, I started realizing it was weighing heavier and heavier. And I think might have been something I think my wife said to me or whatever, or she would ask me different things, like to see how I was doing. And I was realizing, like, it was really weighing down on me. And I was like, yeah, it's not good. Like, you know, like, it's like not good. And like, not to like, oh, I wanted to do some harm or something to myself or anything like that. But people can go there, right? People can go there. And a lot of times we're not paying attention to what's happening along the way, or we stop taking care of ourselves, right?
That's true.
So, you know, and even a workout, even having a systematic workout is good for it because it keeps your, I don't know what it does, I don't know all the stuff, but it keeps your energy level in a better place than it would be if you're just kind of not. Maybe it's because you feel like you've accomplished something, because even if you
also it's because the chemical thing about it is that it boosts your endorphins, and your endorphins are your happy, mood boosting things that happen in your brain. So when you exercise, you feel better because your endorphins are elevated. And so it really is good for mood. I notice, like, when I go for like a nice brisk walk, because you don't have to do anything super strenuous either. Go for a nice brisk walk. If I go for a walk, it's like a mile. I try to walk at least a mile a day. I feel better afterwards. Even if I didn't feel like doing it when I stepped out the door, once I get back, I feel a lot better. I have a lot more energy, and you also sleep better. So if you exercise, it'll impact your sleep. and it also impacts other parts of your body. I mean, not to be, TMI, but it also really helps you to clear your system. Like if you,
Okay.
it helps you regulate your system.
Yeah.
And as long as you're drinking water and things like that, and those are really just the keys right there: water, sleep, and movement. And your brain reacts to that, and you're able to feel better because of those three things. Just if you do those three things. Now, obviously you should eat right, and you should, cut out sugars and all those things, but really sleep, water, movement. If anybody wanted to know what I do on a daily basis, that's it.
Hmm.
It's the major thing I do. I mean, I also try to make sure that at least half of my plate is vegetables and those types of things. But, if I have a day where I haven't eaten one vegetable, I'm still drinking water. I still try to walk at least a mile a day. And I try to get at least 6 hours of sleep.
Okay.
Not always possible, but
So tell me, like, when someone approaches you, what's their chief concern, or their top of mind, uh, kind of their presentation level? What are they saying to you? What's the problem they're looking for a solution to?
most of the time people come and say they start off with, I need to lose a few pounds. But really, when we start talking, the conversation is, I just want to feel better. So
Okay.
most people who want to lose weight really are just not feeling, like I kind of wasn't feeling myself. They're not feeling themselves. They know that they may have a medical condition or may not, but
Mhm.
they just want to feel better about themselves, feel better in their skin, and just have more energy. So those are really the things that people are looking for most of the time. Um, but because I deem myself as a faith-based business, I
Mhm.
try to also kind of look into their spiritual mindset as well.
Okay. So do you actually address that?
I do.
Okay. All right. Nice.
And even though I'm a Christian-based business, I will work with anybody. So wherever you are spiritually is wherever you are. I'm not trying to proselytize anybody, but if the conversation comes up, I'll tell them my beliefs. But I can work with any faith-based belief system, because whatever your beliefs are, you need to follow those beliefs to feel the way you want to feel. So
That's that's a good, I like the perspective. I'll put it that way. I don't think we all necessarily walk down that same road sometimes when we think of the way things are looked at from, at least I'll say from my experience coming up in Christian based, right? Like it's almost like, I won't say it the most direct way. It's sometimes like when a person's not a believer, it almost gets lost that they're a person. You know what I'm saying? Like you kind of lose the touch with that, and because the reality is you can give Jesus without saying his name. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like walking in love and different things, and
Yep.
all the things that we can express. It was interesting though. Years ago, I was in a karate program at open heart surgery when I was 31,
Mhm.
and it was fixed a congenital defect. But anyway, right after that, so I had surgery in July 10th, and then sometime in February, I started training in martial arts, and it was a Christian-based martial arts program. The reason I wanted it to be Christian-based is because as you advance up, there's things that sometimes they're incorporating into your training that you don't realize has roots in other things. So I was trying to avoid, some of those things. But what was interesting is in this group, I'm still friends with that instructor, but in the group when we would get together, like eventually, like it started off as just men. It was just men's group, and we would sit down. Like we'd start. It was like started like a little Bible study. We just happened to be sitting on a karate floor, And
Right.
then we get up and do stuff. And, you know, like he was all about that scripture where Paul says, I beat my body and make it my slave. You know, he was like, he's all about that because that's what's about to happen. So he's like preparing your heart and your mind. But it was just interesting to see the different ways in which people presented Christ to others. So with that program, we have eventually people come in the program that weren't churched at all, right? But they respected what he did, although some of the Bible study component wasn't in there anymore, but there were different components that he would use to teach leadership and different traits or what have you that you want to instill in your kids or into adults. But he may or may not use a direct scripture to do it.
Right.
So it was interesting because he was like on his own journey trying to find out how should this actually, how do I carve this out and present Christ? You know, present the love of God as a man to another man without being churchy, without preaching at him. Because realize that like a lot of men won't sit to be preached at.
Right.
Because sometimes it comes off emotional or like high strung or whatever. In fact, I've been in church, like I came up in Deliverance, Big D, and I remember like not liking certain things that one of the previous churches I went to, not previous to Deliverance, but previous to now, but when they would do New Year's Eve service, they were hyping. It was like, oh, come on. You want to have a good New Year? Come on, give God this. I'm like, really? I don't think that's a factor in what my New Year is going to be like. Because I'm a contemplative person. So I need to contemplate my way out of the new year and out of 1 year and into the new. That's just the way I need to frame it. Being up rah is not doing me any good. It's just taking me somewhere where I don't really want to be.
Right.
You know? So I was like, I remember 1 year, like I didn't go for some other reason. I was just like, I was kind of glad because I was like, I'd really rather just watch the ball drop because I can contemplate all I want. And I don't have somebody trying to coach me into raising my hand or doing whatever. And I know they're there for a reason. They do it for a reason, whatever, but it just wasn't sitting well with me. And I've been in the church forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't even imagine how that's striking people who only go to church on New Year's Eve. Like,
Yeah,
really?
I'm the same way. I'm definitely the same way. I didn't really come up necessarily in the church, but once I joined the church, I was all in, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm more of a learner than a hyper. Like
Exactly. And
I want you
that's
to
who I
teach
am too.
me and really, show me, like tell me, I can figure it out. I'm smart. I can, I can study and but I don't need all the, there, when the spirit moves, but that's organic and I'm cool with that. But I don't need you to hype me up.
Exactly. Yeah, the Holy Spirit doesn't need a hype man. It's not
No.
public enemy. We're not looking for Flavor Flav. Just
Right.
put the word out there and we're good.
Right.
So yeah. So tell me, like right now, like if you were to shape or to identify your ideal, not shape, identify your ideal audience, who's that person?
So for me, the ideal audience right now would be any person who is looking to, one, be able to lose some weight,
Mm-hmm.
two, be willing to listen to clear directions and follow them.
Mm-hmm.
Three, someone who is looking to build on their spiritual path, whether it be Christian or whatever it is, but to really focus in on, maybe meditating or whatever feels comfortable to them. And, so I would say right now, I'm looking at mostly women,
Okay.
but I do coach men as well. And this is a function of my own age, but mostly women over the age of 40, because
Okay.
that's who my friend base is and who follows me mostly on
Mm-hmm.
social media. But, and then also because, people who are younger than 40 are kind of looking for a different vibe too. They're looking for that hype man, I guess. And I'm
Yeah.
that person. I'm not the one who's going to be. You're not going to see me on social media, doing all kinds of crazy stuff and half dressed and showing off my abs. I mean, there's a place and time for that, but that's just generally not me. So, yeah. I mean, if I would say my general audience would be, women from 35 and older, specifically 40 and above, who are looking to develop a healthy lifestyle.
Okay. Do you does it matter where they are presently? Like if they're, is there like might sound like a weird question. Is there a level to where they're beyond your scope? Or
No, I don't really think there's a level to where, like, so if you're morbidly obese, I am probably I probably wouldn't turn you away, but I would enlist support from other professionals that I know, because
okay.
um,
That's a good idea. Yeah.
so, I mean, would I say I couldn't help you? No. But would I boost myself up to help you? Yes, because I wouldn't want to, because, people who are morbidly obese have other medical conditions. And I wouldn't want to give you any type of advice that you could not do or that will put you in jeopardy in any way. Nutrition wise, it's all pretty much going to be the same for just about everybody,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of if you have a condition like diabetes or high blood pressure or something like that, that you may have to cut different things and add different things. But generally speaking, most people just really just need to stop the sugar and and drink more water and eat more vegetables and cut the fat. That's basically what most people need. So, but I would say the general range of people who I work with need to lose between 20 and 50 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it was interesting. You mentioned, like someone morbidly obese, and I remember listening. It was a naturopathic doctor, um, Dr. Wallach. I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
heard of him, but I'm sorry, it wasn't him. It was one of his colleagues, Dr. Glidden, and this guy called in. He was 20. No, he's 31 years old, and he was on high blood pressure medicine, and he was on, I think he was on three of them, three medications, and he mentioned that to the doctor, and the doctor said, wait a minute. He said, you sound really young. How old are you? And the guy said, 31. He said, so you've been on high blood pressure medicine since you were 21? And he said, yeah. He said, let me take a guess. He said, what were you doing at around 15, 16, 17? Were you working in like a factory or working outside a lot, doing anything like that where you were sweating a lot? And he said, oh yeah. He said, I worked in someone in the family's factory, and he was like, there was no air conditioner. So it was like blazing hot in the middle of the summer, that type of thing. It's like in the Midwest somewhere. And I said, oh, okay. And he started asking some other questions. He said, so here you probably sweated out a lot of the calcium in your body. Eventually your body got to the point where it didn't have enough calcium to support itself anymore. So subsequently your blood pressure spiked because your arteries or whatever can't constrict
Mm-hmm.
properly anymore. And he said, so it'll restrict and cause your numbers to go up, but it's not constricting anymore to let it go. So he said, there was some other stuff the guy dealt with too, and he was like, the guy was like, yeah, I can relate to that, I can relate to that. It's like, yeah, those are symptoms of low calcium. But he was like, MDs never find those things. He said, that's why they'll put you on a medication because they're not looking to solve the problem. They're looking to give you, no knock against MDs if you're listening, but that's what he was saying. He was like, they're not looking to solve the problem. And so he put the guy on, they always kind of, naturopaths treat everything holistically, right?
Right.
That's the idea. So you treat the whole body and then they supplement a little bit more in the area of your particular need. And he was like, just put him on the calcium. And I saw that doctor before and he was saying 85% of the time, high blood pressure is a factor of low calcium.
Mm-hmm.
He said, it's definitely not a lack of that medication they want to put in you. And what you probably already noticed is medications, they'll give you that, they give you one medication, it depletes something from your body, right? So now your blood pressure spikes again and they go, oh, the one medication is not enough. And they put you on the second one, never putting together that the first one caused the secondary issue. And he was like, if they probably just went to the second one to begin with, they said, you might be better off. He was like, because, even though they're not fans of medication, they were like, well, it does keep you out of initial harm's way. But they were like, the point is, if you have high blood pressure and you're taking a medication, he said, you're still going to die of whatever caused the high blood pressure. He was like, because that's not being addressed at all. All you're doing is artificially lowering the number. So that made me very interested in what we're doing from a medication standpoint. Like even like my mom was with the dementia. Mm-hmm. They were talking about how they've reversed dementia. They said they've been reversing dementia for 30 years. They were like, but he said, go to MD. He said, they'll tell you it can't be reversed. And that's exactly what we were hearing. Every doctor we went to, oh, there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, they had somebody call in. Like he literally had a patient call in. It wasn't even a patient of his. He had a lady call in. Her brother had dementia and was put into hospice care. And she was like horrified, of course. And he said, well, we don't know what kind of dementia he has. So he said, I'm going to treat all four of them at the same time. But she had to give him the stuff because they were like, the nursing home wouldn't do it. They were like, we're not doing that. And they believe in high amounts of cholesterol. They believe that cholesterol is a result of and not a cause of the problems that we have. So they gave him high doses. Matter of fact, they were saying they even had a doctor, they had a patient that they were doing a study with, a government study with. He was 88 years old. He was eating 24 eggs a day, and he had normal cholesterol, 24 eggs a day.
Wow.
And now he's 88 years old man, so he was eating the cholesterol for his, testosterone, so he could function, right? So that was his reason for going that high, but he was illustrating it even in government studies. They'll tell you that the cholesterol is not the problem. It's the cholesterol got demonized because of Procter & Gamble, not because of any studies showing that cholesterol was a problem. So the first thing they do is they put their people back on real butter. They're like, no, you should be eating butter. The guy was like, eat the skin, throw the chicken out. It was like, because the reality is, he said, your body needs the cholesterol more than it needs the protein from the chicken. He said, you'll get the protein probably from other stuff you're eating. He said, but the likelihood is you're avoiding cholesterol because that's what you've been told for the last 25, 30 years. And the reality is your body needs it and can't produce enough of it. So
that's true.
We could talk about that all day because that takes us down many different roads. But definitely. Tell us where people can find you, where we go hear what Stephanie's up to, and do you have anything coming up soon? Oh, wait a minute. Let me answer this. How are you coaching right now? Like, how are you doing things in the middle of COVID? Is everything virtual now, or how are you doing?
Everything is virtual right now. But I was pretty much virtual before anyway, because I wanted to make myself to be available to anybody, anywhere, anyway.
Okay.
But it's definitely all virtual right now. So I do consultations over the phone and through Zoom. And then I also can do live one-on-one sessions with people exercise sessions, and then I do check-ins once a week with my clients about their,
Excellent.
weight loss and what are they eating, and we really just have conversations about what are you doing, and I want them to tell me so that they can make the connections. So they'll tell me what they're doing, and then they'll say, I probably shouldn't have had that donut, or
Mhm.
like you just said, I probably shouldn't drink that soda.
Mhm.
So once you start talking to people and start asking them and holding them accountable, they're really more like accountability sessions.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's the thing they need the most is the accountability. Even for a lot of stuff, even on the business side, sometimes people are stuck, but they don't know they're stuck. They think, oh, I just don't know what to do or whatever. But very often they can't move because of their certain limiting beliefs that they had. And,
Right.
Even to your point, they could obviously have limiting beliefs about what their bodies are like. Oh, I've always been overweight. My whole family's overweight. Da 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 da. Whatever So they're
Right.
kind of stuck there instead of realizing, no, you have every capability to change to anything you choose to change into, more or less. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
moving forward that way. But like as a coach, you wind up having. I tell people, it doesn't matter what type of coach you are. You wind up being a quasi life coach anyway. There's some
You do.
component of life coaching that's going to happen because they need you to help them down off the wall. Like just they're on the wall, ready to jump, and you got to walk them out of that process to get them to a place where they can learn and grow. And then they're excited because, as you know, once they start seeing results, they start seeing things going the right way, there's excitement. You don't even need to have great results, just results. Like, oh, I did my landing page. Oh, I did my website. I did, and they're
Right.
They're excited.
Right, and that's true. Even as a teacher, that's part of the reason why I became a teacher. Is that light bulb moment when they get it. It's like, and then once they get it and realize, oh, I can do this, then they want to do it.
Exactly.
But so it's the same with teaching. It's the same with coaching. It's the same with fitness. It's the same with everything. Faith. Once people realize, oh, if I believe God for this, and I saw it happen, I can believe God for anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that I try to tie all of that together. And to your other question, people can find me at fitfaithlife.com, which is my website.
Okay.
And Fit Faith Life on Instagram. I also have another Instagram that is specifically for fitness and not just my website, which is at Fierce Faith, Fierce Fitness.
Okay.
Because I believe that you should go all in on both. Like if you go in, you need to be fierce about your faith. You need to be fierce about your fitness. And so those, you can find me at those places. And then also on Twitter at Fit Faith Life, Facebook, Fit Faith Life. It's all Fit Faith Life.
That makes it easy. Yeah, it's real confusing when people are like, oh, how do you find? Well, Kelly Mariano here, and I'm at Impact here, and then Rapid Client Attraction here. And then, come on, we gotta get it together because it confuses people, unnecessarily. Because the thing is, the reality is, especially like in your case, your name is not. It's not super common, but it's not uncommon either. Like, oh my God, I can't believe there's a Stephanie Felder somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, when people do that, like I was on a kind of a Zoom call last night, and we were talking about LinkedIn. So I was connecting with the people that were in the group. So I went to look for this one lady, and I was like, there must have been 50 of them. And they all were Asian descent. Right. So I was like, that wasn't helping me because the last name would have let me know she was, like either from India or Pakistan, something like that right away. So I knew what I was going to, but once you pictures are small, 50 plus, it's not real easy. So I sent her a message. I was like, who are you on here? So I could find you. Then I found her there. Then I was like, okay, now who are you on Instagram? Because she said she was on Instagram and it was like her name with something that was after it or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Would have never found her. Because the reality is people aren't going to try that as hard as you think they are. Like people go, oh, they'll just look for it. No, they won't. No, they really won't. It's human nature. Human nature tends more towards laziness than towards pushing a little harder. So I was like, you think it's not a big deal? And I tell people, like, when someone comes to your website, they got to know within 6 or 7 seconds whether or not they should be on your site, whether you represent what they're looking for or not.
Right.
You don't, they're done. It's like, oh, well, they can tell if they, no, that's not what's going to happen. They're not going to go looking through all your things throughout your website to see if you're a fit. They shouldn't have to. You need to tell them up front, hey, I'm what you're looking for. If not, they're gone. And you'll never know it. Most people, because they're doing websites and not a landing page. So even if they were kind of interested, you still won't know unless they stick around to actually do something. So anyway, we can talk business all day. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but I wanted to ask you something.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for joining me today, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.